I've used the term dissolving the ego for a very specific reason, because it really helps to capture what we're talking about. It helps to explain it in a way that can give you a visual interpretation, a visualization of the ego and the spiritual path. Dissolving the ego. I'm going to use a few analogies to attempt to describe what the ego actually is and the typical state that we as human beings live in without consciousness. Imagine, for example, a glass of water. And I'm going to apologize right now for my artistic skills. I'm a bit out of practice, actually. I haven't practiced drawing probably for the last 15, 20 years. So, forgive my lack of artistic ability. But hopefully I'll be able to convey the essence of this message. Imagine, for example, a glass of water. This entire glass is filled with liquid water. You really can't separate one part of the water from any other part of it. It's all part of the same single field. There's an interesting story or interesting wisdom teaching which says you can never step on the same piece of water twice. It's all one and it's all connected. Imagine in this glass of water you have an ice cube, right? There you go. A little ice cube floating around in this cup of water. Well, the ice cube is made of the exact same thing as the water. They're both H2O. However, this ice cube is separate from everything else. It's separate from the glass of water. It's separate from the water, even though it's made from the exact same substance. This ice cube is in a rigid or solid form, whereas the water is liquid. Oftentimes, the spiritual path is also equated, or spiritual evolution is equated with becoming again like water, free-flowing, totally without resistance. This ice cube symbolizes resistance because it's actually in a state of resistance, right? Its structure, its form is resisting the water that it actually exists in. And in order to maintain its structure, it has to continually resist the water that it swims in. Now you'll notice the natural process of life leads to that ice cube eventually melting and becoming water. Our lives are exactly the same. The natural laws of the universe and life are set up such that eventually we're designed to come from that source of water, eventually become solid like this ice cube, meaning that we develop the ego, but eventually to melt and dissolve, and again return to this state of oneness, this state of immersion in the divine presence. Life will naturally attempt to dissolve us, and when we resist that process, we create suffering. Because we're attempting to remain solid, we're attempting to remain dense, we're attempting to remain in this structure contrary to the will of life, contrary to the will of God. The path to the divine presence, the path of spirituality is in surrender. And again, we've discussed this throughout the program. This is the very meaning of Islam, surrender. And it's a beautiful expression of the spiritual path. It is the essence of the spiritual path. So this ice cube, by surrendering its existence, by surrendering its being, begins to dissolve and again become water. And it is then part of the whole, it is part of the entirety, the totality.